What is something you learned in school but is now debunked and proven wrong? When I was in grade 5, our teacher asked us what we wanted to be when we grew up. I remember one of the kids that loved trains saying he wanted to be a train engineer, and the teacher just straight up told him that would never happen because by the time he is old enough to be a train engineer, robots will be doing that job. She was such a nice teacher, but that stood out to me as one of the most heartless things someone could say to a kid with a dream. And obviously, there are still train engineers. I've lost track of that kid, but I hope he followed his dreams and isn't just riding the rails hobo style. He can be a robot train designer. You can't start a proper sentence with because. I get why they initially teach students that, though. It's hard to explain how to do it correctly until you're learning about dependent clauses. That we only have 5 senses, that the food pyramid is the best dietary plan, that I can grow up to be whatever I want to be. That food pyramid was everywhere. That no computer would ever beat the best chess players of the world. That walking robots were just science fiction, and would remain so, cause walking is so complicated. The Brontosaurus was debunked, but its debunking also got debunked. Okay, I've heard that, but why was it debunked? I mean, people just picked the name Brontosaurus, so why can't it still be called that despite the new information that we've learned about it? That if I did well in school, that meant I'd do well in life. Adults basically made it sound like all I needed to do was get excellent grades and a good life would magically be handed to me on a silver platter. The other day in my AP Bio class, I made some offhand comment about how twins are formed when the sperm splits the egg in half. I have no clue when I learned that, but apparently it's very wrong, seeing as my teacher and all my classmates spent the rest of the class absolutely roasting me. Pretty much everything about tax brackets. I thought that once you go up a bracket, you make less than you did before because it taxes everything. Not true. Brackets affect only the spillover money you make in that bracket. I noticed many Americans still think this. 5th grade teacher told us that our 6th grade teacher would only write in cursive, so if we didn't learn it, we wouldn't understand what was on the board. Well, come to find out next year, nothing was in cursive. Not the first thing we saw was in cursive. I got told this lie all throughout elementary school. Teachers lie to kids. That if I continued playing with computers I'd never amount to anything. A teacher actually wrote that on my report card. My career in IT has recently passed the 20-year mark. There was that whole we only use X% of our brain deal for a long time. That Punnett squares are way too simple for most genetic traits. That is mostly because the Genome Project changed our knowledge about inheritance a lot. However, if you look up Punnett squares, eye color is still used as example, even though at least 15 genes control for eye color. Because it is so complex, any parent-child eye color combination could occur. My mom has blue eyes, my dad has green, and I got crap brown. Thanks for failing me. 10th grade biology. That men have one less rib. Me too. Actually had to explain to my mom that this wasn't true. She didn't believe me. I distinctly remember being taught that the sun was the biggest star in galaxy in 4th grade. Also that blood is blue until it's exposed to oxygen. Well, it's definitely the biggest star in our solar system, so at least there's that. That any sex before marriage would lead to dissolving of the relationship, depression, maybe suicide, and certainly burning in heck for eternity. Source: Catholic school. Daddy long legs are one of the most poisonous spiders, but their fangs don't allow them to bite people. So many things wrong with this. That the tongue has different taste sections. I remember we did an exercise in class where we ate different foods, popcorn, sour candy, etc., and had to say where we tasted it on our tongue. I've never winged something so hard in my life. My 4th grade teacher always got upset whenever someone popped their knuckles because it can cause arthritis. Found out a few years later that it was a load of BS. People just say that because they don't have the balls to say it's annoying them. I had a science teacher look me straight in the eye and say no, there is no 4th state of matter called plasma, and went on to say, isn't plasma something to do with blood? Apparently he hadn't seen the same Nova special I had just seen on PBS the night before. This was in the late 70s. Grade and middle school teachers. You'll have to write everything in cursive in high school and college. High school and college teachers, don't you dare. I once had a teacher, during a lesson on idioms, tell us that when the show Three's Company came out, they had to change the saying Two's Company, Three's a crowd to Three's Company, Four's a crowd, and that's what people said now. She wasn't joking, she was dead serious. I still can't fathom where the heck she got that idea. They had to change the saying. I just want to know who is they. You need to learn how to do this without your calculators. You can't expect to have a calculator with you all the time. I would have been a lot less irked if they had just said, you need to fully understand the fundamentals so you can later understand the more complicated stuff that builds from it. That Columbus proved the earth was round. Everything taught by the DARE program. After finishing DARE in 8th grade, I was expecting to get into high school and find drugs on every corner and that people were just out there offering it to kids. Turns out that stuff costs money and no one wants to give it to kids just to try, lol. Your blood is blue if it doesn't have oxygen. 9th grade health textbook classified allergies as psychosomatic. Even in 1983 that was obsolete. Reading up on the history of science, it turned out that textbook was decades out of date. The hypothesis had been put forward by one medical doctor in the late 40s who even fit it around an Oedipal complex. The idea took fire within the medical community for a decade, then became a topic of dispute because allergic reactions remained consistent under double-blind testing, which wouldn't happen with psychological responses. Among academics, the matter was settled once they isolated immunoglobulin E in 1967. Yet into the 80s, school books were still teaching a debunked idea as fact, not even mentioning immunology. The harm was long-lasting. People who have allergies still have difficulty getting accommodation because some people think it's all in their head. AIDS is a disease that only gay men can get. That glass is a slow-moving liquid. In grade school I learned you could not start a paragraph with because. In college, I found this to be incorrect. Some other paper writing stuff too. Our exercise teacher let us know your body temperature increments by 40 degrees when you run. When we indicated out you go the doctor's facility W a fever more than 103, she let us know it was distinctive, and to quit acting egotistical. Your exercise teacher was a straight up moron. My little brother had a teacher in elementary school that taught him the vowels as A, E, I, O, U, sometimes Y, and sometimes W. It took us days to convince him otherwise. That experts in their field actually know what they're talking about. Source: I'm expert in my field, have no idea what I'm doing. Sometimes when I'm working on something complicated, I think, wow, 10-year-old me would think I'm so freaking smart if she could see me now. Little would she know, I haven't a dang clue. During sex education and science classes we were taught that the hymen snapped either through sex, rigorous physical activity, tampons etc. Also that it was like a sheet that covered the vaginal opening. What actually happens is that the hymen, which doesn't cover the vagina, it's a membrane around the opening, stretches, and often the bleeding that comes with your first time is more to do with lack of lubrication and vaginal tearing more than the stretching of the hymen. If something was covering the vaginal opening, how would you have periods? Also, each woman's hymen is different. Some are thicker, thinner, cover more or less, some might not even have a hymen. I also learned in school that that's why sex for the first time is painful. So, when I first had sex, I bled a lot, but I just thought it was normal, because, yeah, anyway, turns out I had a uterine polyp which had to be removed and biopsied. Misinformation can be dangerous. You'll get fat if you don't eat half an hour after waking up. The body will think you're starving, so you'll have to put on weight as a defense mechanism. Maybe not so much as is now disproved as WTF was that health gym teacher thinking, but still. That cursive would be useful. I don't know if this counts, but my mom was told in the late 70s that America will have fully transitioned to the metric system before she graduates high school. She graduated in 1983. I learned about the extinction of dinosaurs before the asteroid theory. Back then, The prevailing belief was that emerging primordial mammals ate the dinosaur eggs so they couldn't reproduce. I'll never forget a drawing in a school book of an evil looking rodent with dinosaur egg yolk dripping down its face. It seems really funny today, but clearly there must have been scientists back then who advanced this theory. You would never carry a calculator in your pocket everywhere you went. The vast majority of what I learned about history, those haven't really been debunked, though. Some people always knew what was being taught wasn't exactly accurate. I guess something I was taught and has actually been debunked. What dinosaurs looked like. They had feathers. Pluto is a planet. Not so much proven wrong, rather redefined. Pluto is a planet. God damn it. Good morning, Pluto. And a very good morning for our guest, Earth scientist Yu Chardham, who's making headlines with his bold announcement. I before E except after C. Unless your feisty neighbor runs a heist on your beige Rottweiler from his weird ceiling while you forfeit your stein to a foreign caffeine-loving poltergeist. That Lance Armstrong was a hero and inspiration. Oscar Pistorius for me. Republicans are fiscally conservative. I remember being told circles have 360 sides in 3rd grade. When I asked if she meant angles, not sides, she still stood by her statement. That Christopher Columbus was some kind of hero. Turns out he's one of history's biggest a-holes. You have been visited by the romantic doggo. Comment love is magic so you never fall in the friend zone. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.